continuing with the fixing of my tier lists. The one we're doing today is floaters, and I'm only doing one. This one doesn't have that many changes, but there are 5 new cards that I want to talk about. So, and the other one that I'm missing is asteroids, which is also going to be pretty big. So, yeah, we're gonna just keep it to one today, maybe a little bit shorter video. But yeah, start. Well, let's go over the tiers again. The first one is Titan Target, which means essentially not just Titan, but every floater card you have that can place on another card is going to go there. End of game, and that's points, and those are the most valuable ones. And we have great starters, usually Eco Builder, Solid Cogs. Cards that you usually want in your machine, they're good at tapping and, free action and providing some resources, but that's all we have. Nice to have cards that are fine, crappy alternative. Like these are cards that if you're playing, basically, I think you've done something wrong in the game. Venus or Jovian Heavy, the only reason you play these is because you're Venus or Jovian Heavy, and Unusable. Which is always a little bit of an overstatement, but yeah. As usual, we have 7 tiers, and yeah, let's start. I'll start by saying that I was extremely happy to see Jovian Lanterns was my top card, because I did have to move it up a lot in the Jovian rankings, and it stays there, so it honestly could be in a tier of its own, because it's a lot better than Habs. First of all, it places a point per turn, not half a point, even though like other cards placing on them is still 1 to 2, but Jovian Lanterns can place 2 at a time. And for 1.5 credits each instead of 2 credits each, so it's actually cheaper. But it also comes with a Jovian tag, which is much better than Venus, and much easier requirement. It's just a Jovian tag, and 2 points on it. So, yeah. And the fact that it's Jupiter is a little better for cards. The only one that can place on it is Stratopheric and Air Scraping, and Hydrogen. So there's a few, but then it gets some that the other one doesn't. Like this one, and this one. So, it kind of evens out. That part evens out. But yeah, I'm going to leave the top tier as is then. Floating Habs up there with it. Now here begin the changes. First of all, Great Stars, I have to move Titan Shuttles up 2 tiers. I have underestimated this card. It is so good. Not only because it's basically producing 2 titanium a turn for way cheaper than asteroid mining, with the one caveat that there's a couple of turns in the game where you don't produce, including the last one, which you don't really care about. So if you play this right, it's only like you're missing on 2 titanium, which is the difference. But also, you can shift, like if you overdo your titanium, which does happen in colonies, especially if Triton is in play, you can shift to making 1 point a turn with Jovian Lanterns. So this is the most powerful combo for Jovian Lanterns. And it's honestly, this is like, if I want to see 2 floater cards in the colonies expansion, it's these 2, Jovian Lanterns and Titan Shuttles. I have discovered that that's the case every time, and yes, it is. Okay, local shading, I'm moving it up. My love affair with this card doesn't end. I'm just happy to see this in my opening hand. And then I am moving down Titan Floating Launchpad. I'm moving it to Solid Cog tier. I'll talk about it more in detail when I get there. And I'm moving up Aerial Mappers. Okay, so here's the thing. Red Spot Observatory seems better, right? It's 2 more cards, 1 more point for 6 more cash and a requirement. There's 2 things that I think have shifted me towards mappers, or 3. One is that you're able to play somewhere else end of game. That could be a point or half a point that makes up for that. And 2, actually, the combination of the requirement and the price ended up meaning that I just play this a lot less than I do Air Mappers. You don't think 6 cash, like you see these 2 cards and you think this one's better. Really, it's 6 cash, you get 2 cards right away. And you get a Jovian and Science tag, so much better tags than Venus. But I just have a harder time playing it. Those 6 cash matter, so it's still the better card, obviously, if you have money, but Air Mappers is just easier to get down. Okay, moving down to the Solid Cog tier. First of all, I'm gonna move Deuterium Export up, And I'm gonna put it here on the first, especially if you have colonies. It's a pretty slow way to get to the 3, but if you only need one more, you play this Gen 1, and it's cheaper than the standard. Well, it's the same as the standard price, but it's giving you 3 tags, and it's gonna give you more energy that you will need. That's the thing. In colonies, you still need to play cities and stuff. So, yeah. I think it's actually a solid card. This is one I underestimated a lot. The 3 tags are also amazing for Aridor, especially because Venus, energy, and space are not very common early tags. Like usually you see a lot of Earth, building, science, but these 3, I mean, with colonies it's a little more common, but yeah, pretty good. Okay, I'm leaving dirigibles here. It's still solid. Like it's just very good. 3 production, 411. It's on Venus cards, but who cares? It produces the turn it gets there. It gives you a tag, and you can dump floaters on it, and you can use the floaters on something else later. So it's just a more flexible acquired company. In some senses, less flexible because it's only on Venus tag, obviously. So, but it does have some added flexibility. No, Titan Floating Launchpad. I still love this card. If you don't find your energy early, it's great. But eventually you do want to switch to energy, and it just becomes like something that can give you half a point with Jovian Lanterns, which is not bad, And I'm gonna compare it to Atmo Collectors and just compare the two because they have pretty much the same purpose. You can place a floater on it and then tap for 3 energy or tap for a trade, which is going to be 3 energy. Now, 2 key things here that make me like Titan. Well, there's 3 main: Floating Launchpad more. First of all, yes, it's more expensive, but it also gives you a point at a Jovian, which is going to be more points. Atmo Collectors is less expensive, and it's also like after you get your 3 energy production, it's way more useful. But is it really? Because I mean, you can do the 2 titanium, you can produce 1 titanium a turn, you can get a point a turn with these, or half a point, which it could be better. But another very important thing here, besides the point and the Jovian card, is that this is 1 action. Like you can start your generation and just, if you have your floater there, tap and trade, and you trade. And if you have 2 fleets, that means you can trade twice before the other player. This one requires 2 actions. You have to turn into energy and then trade, which means you can only do 1 trade before your opponent. And even if you have other things, maybe you want to place trade and place a greenery, or trade and claim a milestone. Titan Floating Launchpad allows that, and Atmo Collectors doesn't, and it's a much bigger deal than you think. So that's why I'm keeping, besides the Jovian and the point, I think the fact that it can play somewhere else sort of like crosses over, like it's on par with this one, just being able to produce titanium and heat after you've figured out your trading. But yeah, the fact that you can do it in 1 action, the Jovian and the point, I have Titan from still ahead of Atmo Collectors, and honestly there's a bit of difference to me there, but I'm gonna keep them in the same tier. Okay, the nice to have tier. So first of all, I'm gonna move Hydrogen to Venus to the top. The reason is it's a space event, it's often much cheaper, and it's also like a half a Jovian multiplier if you have floating hubs. So it can be really good. It can be useless, but it can be really good. You don't want to play this just for the Venus usually, unless you have like played for maybe 7 or 6. Then I'm thinking about it. But anything more than that, it's a lot for a Venus step, right? It's a lot for a point. Floater prototypes I'll leave right here. This is usually just a card that if I draw, I'll play, and if I don't, I don't, because 5 for 2 floaters. 2 floaters, usually you want to get a point out of that, and 5 for a point, it's not bad, but it's not amazing, right? Like end of game, I mean, you would buy it, you wouldn't prioritize it in a draft, I guess, and you wouldn't buy it mid game so you can get a point late game either. So if you see it in a draft end of game, you pick it last. If you otherwise, I don't know, yeah. And then Airliners, honestly, I have played this a couple of times. It does give a point. The requirement is kind of annoying. You have to have something that can accumulate floaters, which of the cards that you've seen, like if you go one tier above, you have obviously the 2-point cards, but these are usually later game cards, so you might not see that for a while. And then Titan Shuttles. Everything else is tap and remove, tap and remove, tap and and dirigibles. Sorry, so it's really Titan Shuttles and dirigibles early that can do that. The other ones are all tap and remove, tap and remove. Sometimes Titan Floating Launchpad, if you play first gen, you add that floater here so that you have 3 trades because you don't want to trade on the first gen, so it can do that. Same thing with Atmo collectors, but other than that, it's the problem with Airliners. The requirement is kind of annoying. The payoff isn't super amazing. The other thing is like if you have the 3 floaters, you have somewhere to place a floater, so that there's some synergy there. 2 production and a point for 11 isn't bad, but no tag, so it's fine. I've played it sometimes, never died to play it, right? Okay, but moving into the bad stuff. And so crappy alternative, this is basically a much worse point scorer than Jovian Lanterns, simply for the fact that it's a turn slower. Like it takes 2 turns to get a point. It comes with the same 2 points, but Jovian Lanterns, even though it costs double, this one takes 2 turns to get a point. Titan Air Scraping. But also you can't dump floaters on it because to get the points you need to tap it. So it's not a Titan target, it's just bad, right? Like this is mostly like you can get 3 points out of on the end of game. It's not that expensive, so fine. I hate that it doesn't have a space tag a little because I want my point cards late to have a space tag unless they're amazing like Jovian Lanterns, right? So floater technology is another it's too expensive for what it does. It's nice that it has a science tag. But it's just like when you add this stand to whatever else you're doing, you're overpaying. So unless you're rich and you just want to place more shit on Jovian Lanterns or something like that, yeah. And then floater leasing, it's a card that combos very well with Titan Shuttles. You can get 3 production for 3 cash. That's good. It's gonna be mid game, but still worth it because it's gonna like pay right back, right? So, I'm again gonna leave this tier intact, but yeah, I'm just not super excited about anything here. Then we come to the bottom tier. I'm gonna drop this card. I still think these cards can be useful if you have Venus. I'm just gonna switch this one ahead of. Yeah, I've talked about these cards a lot, so I'm not gonna keep going on it. But yeah, they're just like crappy Venus Terraformers. And then I'm gonna move this one ahead of all of them just because the 3 floaters. This can be 2.5 points at the end of the game floating hubs, but it's still bad. This is. You don't even have to be Venus heavy for this, this is just expensive for what it does, so yeah, even if you get 2.5 points, you're kind of overpaying. And then here, I'm gonna keep Jupiter Floating Station last. Even Stratopolis has a very point potential, but I am gonna move Satan Seraphim up 1 spot. Because, yeah, you can basically get a free point out of it. Stratopolis is never gonna be a free point, even though it can be a little more points, but whatever. And Jupiter Floating Station, it has a Jovian tag, that's all I can say from it. So, those are all the changes. My main changes, just to recap, are Titan Shuttles and Deuterium Export are cards that I underrated. The rest pretty much stayed in their tiers. But let's talk about new cards. Let's start with Cloud Tourism, which was discussed in the Jovians once, and I don't think it's good. I'm gonna put it here. I guess it fits in the Venus or Jovian heavy. I think I have it lower on the Jovian tier, but if you're Venus heavy, this is much better. It's still the only Jovian that doesn't have a point besides the tag, which I hate. And it's gonna take all day to get a point there, or 3 turns, whatever you figure is faster. But I guess it can give you production. It is bad though. I'm gonna put it under this one and just ahead of these ones because like if you have a bunch of Venus and Earth tags, it can be worth. But even then, it costs so much. It costs 11. Like you want to get at least 3 production out of that, I guess. Well, I mean, whatever. I already discussed this. It's not good. It's not really even fun. So we're gonna leave it there. Florida Refinery. It's an extremely weird card, but I think it can work. I'm gonna put it ahead of Airliners. So let's see what it does. Cost 7, which is fairly cheap Venus tag. You can add a floater here, or remove 2 floaters from anywhere to gain 1 titanium and 2 cash. but also you get one floater on it for each Venus tag. So it's weird in that it can only add to itself, but remove from anywhere. The remove from anywhere thing can be useful like last gen, I guess, because you might have some cards like aerial mappers or and I guess you can use different cards, I'm hoping, because that would matter. But like Red Spot, Observatory, Titan Shuttles, that maybe you tap the last gen and then you have more than you need, or you only have one and you can't tap to remove. Even local shading. But it is a bit expensive to remove 2 for the 5 cash, so you're not gonna rely on other card floaters all game. It's just more of an end game thing. You're gonna mostly rely on this ability here at the bottom, which is you get 1 for every Venus stack. So if you get 6, this card you pay 10 and it's gonna pay you back 15, so in 3 turns, and then you can see what you do with it, right? So at 6, I think this is playable. And it pays 5 immediately, so it really costs 5. And like the next turn is paid off, so that's why I think it's like nice to have. But I just don't see you, unless you have a crazy Venus tag game very early. I don't see an efficient way to get more out of it, because they place one, and then remove 2. Then it becomes really slow, basically, because you're getting 5 cash every 3 turns. And you're going to do that maybe once or twice more in the game. So you really rely on your Venus stacks and maybe on some cards that have some leftovers. It is nice for flexibility, like maybe, just keep on drawing a card next turn, you get an extra 5 cash that you need to play something. So I do think it has potential. I obviously have to play more with it, but I do think it has potential, and it's fine. It's not, it's just fine. GHG Shipment, I'm going to put in the same tier, but at the top of that tier. Yeah. And again, another nice card. You get a bunch of hit for every floater. You can basically use this as an asteroid if you have something like Jovian Lanterns and Titan Shuttles, which you'll have, or Titan is in play. You'll have a bunch of floaters on Jovian Lanterns. You're about to empty Titan. You could, I've had games with 76 floaters on Jovian Lanterns, which are insane. But 20 on the last gen is not crazy, and if you get 3 heat steps out of this for 3 cash, that's it. Demos down. Of course, heat can be maxed out, but still, and it's such a good surprise for ending the game if your opponent thinks you won't be able to. It's not usually the case that you're the one ending the game when you're the one with 20 floaters on Jovian Lanterns. Usually that means you have the better engine. But if it can help somehow, surprise your opponent, that's really, it's a really high ceiling surprise, basically. It also steals Thermalist, which is nice. So yeah, I'm going to put it in nice to have, because if you play this early, it's pretty useless. You get 1 production and maybe a couple of extra heat, but that's it, right? It's not going to do much. It's also a space event, and it does require the Thermalists, and the Thermalists are not so easy to get in play late, so that it does have that going against it. Then Stratopheric Expedition, same tier, but right above Floating Refinery. It's a space event, Venus space event with a point, which is a nice combo. That means it gets really discounted by a lot of things. Gives 2 floaters and draws 2 Venus cards. So I appreciate the synergy when it comes to Venus. And sometimes you really need your Venus cards. It's going to be played usually for a lot cheaper than it is, because Venus space event with a point. And the 2 floaters can be, another point or something to fill your economy. Again, a nice to have. I'm not dying for it. I think Ishtar Expedition is a little better, actually, because it's cheaper. That's a theme for another point and another video. But yeah, not much to say on that. And finally, Venus Shuttles. And this is going right on the Great Starters. You might be thinking, is it really a starter? You need a bunch of tags, but yes, it is, because you can get 4 Venus tags, and it's not super crazy with something like MSI, and Prelude 2 especially. MSI already has a Venus tag, right? And this is the second one. So you get 2 more, you're terraforming Venus for 8 every turn, and you get 2 floaters, maybe on something like Local Shading, maybe on one of the Venus Terraformers, and make it decent for a little more. So yeah, no, and that's the thing. That's the other thing. Like once you get past 6 stacks, and it really doesn't matter that you played it early and paid a little more, because like once you start paying 6, it's gonna be awesome. And usually no one else is going for Venus, so it's just a point and an income every turn for 6 cash. And it continues to get cheaper usually, right? That's the other awesome thing. It's not like you place floaters on it and that's the price. No, like you can play this at 4 Venus stacks and you're paying 8. But then in a couple of turns you play a couple more and you're paying 6, and by the end of the game it's free, right? And it's not so weird. I mean, it's a little weird, but it's not so crazy to say it could be free. I like when you focus heavy on Venus and with cards like Stratopheric Expedition, it's a lot more common to just get a bunch of Venus stacks more easily. So yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I have for my video today. Hope you liked it. Let me know what you think, and see you next time.